Paul.
Thanks, Melinda, and welcome to the program. Christine Milne, good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Well, the carbon tax, we know we'll get through on Tuesday. There's a resolution of the Senate which, if anyone had any doubts, knows that the numbers are there. But do you believe that Julia Gillard would have introduced a carbon tax in this Parliament had the Greens not pushed her to it?
Well, I certainly think that a minority government was the conduit, if you like, to this absolutely important environmental, social and economic reform. I think when the Prime Minister said that she wouldn't introduce a carbon tax, she was quite genuine at that time, but circumstances changed when nobody won a majority. It was part of the agreement with the Greens, and it also needs to be said that Tony Abbott made it fairly clear right around the Parliament that he would have done anything to be Prime Minister. And I think the interesting thing is that Tony Abbott is causing a very big problem for himself by making such an issue of the Prime Minister's change of mind, because he is the one advancing this great big new lie that he will repeal the bills if he got into government, when it's clear that he won't. Already we've seen him back off the carbon farming initiative. He's not repealing that. He's now announced he won't repeal the Australian Renewable Energy Agency legislation. Just this morning he's been saying that they will no longer repeal the superannuation increases. So every day we see Tony Abbott out there at the head with the big blast of the trumpet, the blood oath, he's going to repeal everything, and then there's the cowardly retreat, and quietly behind the scenes, oh no, we're backing off that. It's a big problem for him.
Well, as we've seen from the polls in regard to Julia Gillard and her broken promise, you do pay a big political price, and of course that will play out, or you're predicting it'll play out differently for Tony Abbott. But there is no doubt, is there, that the broken promise has tainted this carbon tax?
Yes, I think that's been a problem for it, that those who oppose Julia Gillard and oppose a Labor government have used this major reform and have confused the two issues. Having said that, it is not a carbon tax that is being introduced. It is an emissions trading scheme which will have a fixed price for 3 years and then go to flexible trading. But nevertheless, it has been the opportunity for the coalition to campaign against Labor rather than actually mount the argument around the climate action.
Is it what the Greens wanted?
The actual carbon price mechanism?
Well, what we're seeing, what will be voted for on Tuesday, is it what the Greens wanted?
Certainly, we've had a big hand in the package. We wanted an emissions trading scheme. We wanted a much higher target, and now we've got an 2050 target of 80% reduction, which is a big improvement. We do have the Independent Climate Authority. We have a pillar that delivers on renewable energy, another pillar on energy efficiency, and a very big contribution in terms of carbon in the landscape and biodiversity. So yes, but the really important thing that we achieved was right across all these pillars there's room for upward mobility, greater ambition, because whilst this is a very important reform, if we are to have physical reality meet political reality, we have to do a lot more.
Well, the opposition insists the carbon price suite of measures, in fact, will do nothing for the global environment. Here's Erica Betts on Thursday.
So we are going to ship out the coal from Australia, give everybody else the advantage of our high-quality, cheap coal without a tax, but tax Australians who want to use Australian coal.
And the other point that Senator Betts, the Liberal leader in the Senate, made was that, in fact, Australian carbon emissions will increase under this scheme.
Well, Australia's emissions are going up, and what this will do is constrain them against business as usual. As to Senator Betts's argument about Australia shipping coal overseas, absolutely, the Greens have made this point time and time again, that massively increasing coal exports is against the best interests of climate action, and that in fact we need to get rid of all of the subsidies for fossil fuels, and the G20 has just come out with a reaffirmation of that policy. So I'm looking forward to Senator Betts actually addressing the issue that he's raised here and actually supporting us in getting rid of fossil fuel subsidies.
Now, when you say things like that, it sets the alarm bells ringing that you're against the coal industry, which is integral to Australia's wealth.
Well, it's very interesting because I think the minerals boom is almost a veil, if you like, against the real problems in the Australian economy. We are increasingly becoming the quarry of Asia. We have a primitive export mix in terms of over 50% of our exports are minerals. We need to massively invest in education and training, diversify the Australian economy, get more sophistication, rebuild manufacturing, and moving to address climate change does all those things because we start to actually invest in commercialising the technologies here and getting a rollout and more jobs in that green field. So what we'll see is actually addressing these real vulnerabilities in the Australian economy by moving strongly on climate change.
Time for a break. When we return with the panel, do the Greens see the nation's miners as the enemy? And our weekly award goes to the Confusion Corner inhabited by the National's Barnaby Joyce, as he tried to prove the Greens' voting record made them a government faction.
In seriatim, this is how we voted. No, yes, no, no, that's one, but then neither the government didn't support it either. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, no, yes, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, yes, no, no, yes. And I won't bore you, but you get the idea. You get the idea. We don't generally agree. Yes, no, yes, no, yes.